The swing was still moving. But the 3-year-old girl was gone. Amira Monroe, just 3 years old, vanished from a public park in broad daylight. No screams, no security footage, no tire tracks. But inside a trash bin 200 meters away, someone found a small pink shoe, muddy and worn, just Amira's size. Her mother, Tasha Monroe, said she only stepped across the street exactly 90 seconds to take a call from her boss. A blonde woman nearby, Friendly Smile, offered to watch Amira. Said her name was Diane, said she was a teacher, but no one in Atlanta had ever heard of her. When Tasha returned, both Diane and Amira were gone. Everything else was untouched. The swing still rocked. Amira's teddy bear was still on the bench, the only camera that could have captured what really happened. It stopped working precisely from 2:17 to 2:29 p.m. that day. So who is Diane? And why do police suspect? The mother might not be telling the whole truth. Tasha Monroe was born and raised in South Atlanta, in a neighborhood where people still called each other by name and left handwritten notes on doorsteps when they couldn't reach you by phone. The youngest of 3 sisters, she was always the one who endured the most, whether it was when her father left at age 7 or when her mother worked 2 jobs just to keep the roof from caving in. After graduating from community college with a degree in supply chain management, Tasha started working for a mid-sized logistics company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. She didn't complain. After Amira was born, Tasha's life shifted into a new orbit, more exhausting, more sleepless, but full of hope. She and her ex-husband, Keith Monroe, divorced when Amira was just 18 months old. There was no abuse, no betrayal, just a quiet truth. Keith wasn't ready to be a father. I don't feel like I have the instincts, he had said during their final counseling session. I feel disconnected from my own daughter. Tasha didn't blame him, but she didn't beg him to stay either. She and Amira moved into a modest apartment in Decatur. It wasn't new, but it was quiet. The neighbors knew her daughter's name. The landlord gave her extra time on rent when the month got tight. For Tasha, that was enough. Amira was different. She didn't speak early, but her eyes said everything. By age 2, she could point to every animal in a picture book and mimic their sounds with a precision that surprised her preschool teacher. She loved music, especially Beyonce. Every night before bed, Amira would ask for Halo twirling on her pudgy little feet in bunny print pajamas. Tasha loved her in a quiet way. She didn't post photos. She didn't overshare about motherhood. But everyone who lived nearby knew she was a devoted mom. She left for work at 6 a.m., returned by 4:45 to pick up Amira. Saturdays were for the library and the park. Sundays were for folding laundry, eating noodles, and building Lego castles. The Monday afternoon, Amira disappeared. Everything had been normal. The weather was mild, around 71 degrees, warm enough for no jacket. Tasha picked up Amira from daycare at 3:20, swung by the corner store for her favorite juice, then headed to Glenwood Park like always. Tasha chose the bench near the shaded play area where she could scroll through work messages while keeping an eye on Amira at the swing set. When her phone rang, she glanced at the caller ID. Her boss, James Farley. He rarely called directly, usually just emailed. She frowned, stood up, and told Amira, "Mommy's going to take this call real quick. You stay on the swing, okay?" Amira nodded, still chewing a gummy, her tiny fingers gripping the swing chains tight. Tasha stepped across the road just 40 meters away where the cell signal was stronger. She stood by a streetlight explaining a delayed shipment from the Kentucky warehouse. She remembers checking the time, 2:16 p.m. When she returned 2:18 p.m., the swing was still moving. But Amira was gone. At first, Tasha didn't panic. She walked faster, scanning the nearby slides. Maybe Amira had just wandered over to where the older kids were playing. She called her name. No answer. She walked faster, louder. "Amira, where are you?" Still silence. A middle-aged woman reading on a nearby bench looked up, then around, her expression shifting as she noticed something was off. A father pushing a stroller stopped. The little girl in the bunny shirt, right. Tasha nodded, breath catching. "Who was with her when you stepped away?" the woman asked. Tasha swallowed. There was a woman, blonde. I don't know her real name. She said her name was Diane. She offered to watch my daughter while I took a call. She said she was a teacher. The man frowned. What was she wearing? Cream-colored jacket, white sneakers. Very normal. She looked kind. That was the moment Tasha felt the cold rise up her spine. No one else seemed to remember the woman. A teenage boy said he saw a blonde lady near the swing set, but didn't notice her leave. Another mother insisted she saw nothing unusual, just a little girl playing on the swings, and then not. Tasha ran to the public restroom area, throwing open each stall empty. She burst into the men's room, yelling Amira's name. No response. She called 911 at 2:23 p.m. Her voice cracked, nearly incoherent. Within 20 minutes, 3 squad cars had arrived. The park was locked down. All exits checked. Police questioned every witness, reconstructing the timeline minute by minute. But the evidence was already slipping through their hands. The park's main security camera, the only one that could have captured Amira being taken, was down that day. A power failure, the technician said. Worse, the hard drive was missing. Just an empty shell left in the control box. From day one, local media latched on. News stations showed Tasha weeping, clutching Amira's tiny teddy bear beside the police tape. The hashtag #Bring Amira Home started trending. But alongside the support came the judgment. Why would a mother leave her child with a stranger? Why didn't she do more? Why didn't she react the right way? Tasha saw it. She read the comments, but she didn't fight back. She asked herself the same questions. Why had she trusted a woman she didn't know? Because she smiled gently. Because she said she was a teacher. Because I was tired, Tasha thought. And because she looked like someone who had once held a child. By day 2, police confirmed no one named Diane matching that description lived in the area. No teacher, no trace. And what shattered Tasha most, no photos. No one had taken a picture. No surveillance. No detailed witness. She was a shadow appearing then, vanishing with Amira. On the 3rd morning, Tasha returned to give her second formal statement. She sat in the interview room, hands wrapped around a cold coffee staring at the floor. Lieutenant Corinne Lasker questioned her with calm precision. Are you sure you hadn't seen this woman before that day? Tasha shook her head. No, never. But she acted so natural, like a mom. She said she had a 6-year-old son over at the slide. Did you see the boy? I think so. Maybe. I wasn't paying attention. There were a few boys there. Lieutenant Lasker took notes. After a pause, she asked gently, is there any chance your daughter left with someone you know? Her biological father, perhaps? Tasha looked up sharply. Keith. No, absolutely not. Do you still speak to him? Not much. We have a co-parenting agreement, but he only FaceTimes once a month. Sends child support, nothing more. When did you last see him in person? January. He came to visit family in Atlanta, but he didn't see Amira. Said he wasn't ready. Lieutenant Lasker didn't press further. But Tasha knew that look, the one that suggested they were building scenarios she hadn't considered, or refused to. Meanwhile, a special task force was formed. Technicians, behavioral analysts, community liaisons. They reconstructed the entire timeline, every moment from daycare pickup to the exact minute Amira vanished. A map was made, marking every witness, every route, every variable. One detail stood out. Glenwood Park had 3 exits. Only one had a traffic camera. Between 2:10 and 2:25 p.m., just 3 vehicles left the park, a silver Toyota Camry, a local delivery pickup, and a black SUV, no front plate. The camera only caught the SUV's side panel, no clear license plate, but it was unfamiliar, no local registry. It was an unknown vehicle. When Tasha was shown the still frame, she said, I'm not sure, but that color, that shape, it looks like the one Diane mentioned. She said, I parked under the tree my son naps there when he's tired. But no one else remembered her saying that. No one else heard it. And when police pulled footage from nearby stores, the cameras were either broken or had overwritten their data. A dark blur began to form around the case. A question no one could answer. If Diane was a stranger, why did she seem to know the park, the exits? which cameras worked, how to disappear, leaving behind nothing but a muddy pink shoe and a trash bin near the restrooms. Tasha stopped sleeping. She sat in the living room, clutching Amira's bear, replaying the 911 call, rewatching the news, zooming in on still frames. Each day felt like falling into a hollow place where even hope began to rot. But on day 5, a homeless man came forward. His name was Terrence Bolden, and he said he saw Diane carrying a little girl being lifted into a black SUV right at the moment Tasha had taken her phone call. Terrence Bolden had lived around Glenwood Park for over 5 years as a homeless man. Tall and lean with unruly gray hair, he was a familiar sight, worn baseball cap, reading beside the recycling bins near the restrooms. Once, a refrigeration technician, Terrence lost his job after his wife died in an accident, falling into alcoholism until he became homeless. When Terrence walked into the police station on that 5th day, the officer at the desk thought he was just asking for water. But when he said, "I saw that disappearance, I saw the little girl, and I saw who took her," the atmosphere shifted immediately. In his interview, Terrence described how around 2:15 p.m. that day, he was sitting on a bench near the restrooms. "I saw a blonde woman wearing a light, colored jacket running toward the parking area, carrying a little girl in a rabbit outfit." According to him, the woman got into a black SUV, no front license plate, with a faded blue decal on the rear windshield. He saw a boy about 6 or 7 already in the back seat playing on a handheld game. She set the girl on her lap, shut the door, and the vehicle drove off. No horn, no loud engine noise. It was like it had been practiced. Terrence couldn't read the plate from where he was sitting, but described the SUV as aging small with a scratch on the rear and a noticeable rattling on the left wheel when it moved. Police took his statement seriously, even though he had no phone, no camera, and no physical proof. What caught their attention, however, was the detail about the blue decal it matched, blurred data from a traffic camera at 2:19 p.m., a black SUV with a faint blue reflection in the rear window. Investigators returned to the scene, tracing possible paths of escape. Leah Graham, the morning caretaker at the park, was re-interviewed. She remembered a blonde woman asking around 11 a.m., "Is any camera working here?" Leah thought it odd at the time, but didn't consider it suspicious until the disappearance. Their investigation into the park's rear exit, where Terrence said the SUV left, revealed that it had once served food trucks during festivals. The path was unpaved and rarely used, ideal for someone trying to avoid cameras. The question loomed: who knew the route so well, and why had the only working camera at the main exit had its hard drive removed? Meanwhile, police expanded the search to rest stops, gas stations, and parking lots along I-20, heading west toward Alabama and Texas. But a week passed, with no confirmed sightings of Amira. On the 6th day, Mayor's office officials and Lieutenant Corin Lasker held a press conference in Glenwood Park. With Tasha clutching Amira's small yellow teddy bear, Lasker announced that the investigation had shifted. "We believe this was not impulsive. It appears to be a premeditated plan. We urge all who were in the park that day to review any photos, videos, or phone footage that could help." Shortly after, an 8-second Snapchat video went viral, recorded by 15-year-old Trey. It showed a blonde woman near the slide staring intently at the swing. It wasn't clear, but it was enough. An SUV parked 50 meters away under trees visible in the background. Although the license plate was blurry, the vehicle matched Terrence's description. When questioned, Trey said he hadn't intended to film the woman he was recording his friend falling, but after the press conference, he saw the same woman in his video. He recalled her turning quickly and disappearing. Then minutes later, he heard people shouting that a child was missing. Tasha, watching the clip, froze. Though blurry, she recognized the woman who had offered to watch Amira. Investigators began reconstructing Diane's movements using eyewitness accounts, videos, and geographic data. They suspected Diane was not acting alone. A woman named Clarice, who had been in the park, later called police. She said she saw a white man in a black hoodie standing near the rear parking lot. At first, she thought he'd ordered an Uber, but when she passed by, he melted into the shadows, intentionally avoiding attention. The man was standing in the direction Diane ran off to in the video. That parking lot was where the SUV likely departed. The theory evolved: Diane may have been part of an organized group tasked with approaching unwitting parents. The man could have been the driver, a supervisor, or someone known to Tasha yet unrecognized. By day 7, tension gripped the apartment complex where Tasha and Amira lived. Volunteers knocked on every door, distributed flyers, and urged neighbors with doorbell cameras to check footage from the day of the disappearance. A neighbor named Denise, who lived downstairs, reported seeing a blonde woman near the apartment 1 week prior, thinking she might be a delivery person. Police Cross referenced delivery schedules and van footage found nothing. But the fact that the woman had visited the complex days earlier suggested Diane, or someone using her identity, had been tracking mother and child for some time. A new theory emerged. Diane didn't encounter Amira by chance in the park. She had targeted her deliberately. Her familiarity with Park exits the casual reference to a son showing up while Tasha took a call. All of it felt too perfectly timed to be random. Police asked Tasha further had anyone ever visited Amira's daycare and acted overly familiar. Tasha hesitated, then remembered a woman once approached me in the daycare parking lot. She said, "Is your daughter Amira? She's so cute. Does she have siblings?" I just smiled and took Amira away. I thought she was a friend of someone. When asked to describe the stranger, Tasha faltered. "I don't remember exactly, but the eyes felt familiar. Maybe that was the same person." Police launched an investigation across local daycares to look for similar incidents, strangers recalling children's names, posing as acquaintances, offering attention. They found 3 more cases within a 20-mile radius. Women approached children by claiming to know the parents, sometimes even leaving fake cards claiming to represent children's enrichment centers. None of the phone numbers or websites existed. All the children approached were from single mother households in lower-income neighborhoods. Though none were kidnapped, the women disappeared days later. Meanwhile, forensic testing on the pink shoe found in the trash confirmed Amira's DNA, but also found skin cells and carpet fibers not belonging to any known person in the files. Those fibers came from an old-style floor mat, commonly used in SUVs from 2006 to 2010. That narrowed the investigation, not just a black SUV, but an older model, refurbished and uncommon. Police cross-referenced secondhand sales data with descriptions of blue decals from Terrence's statement, systematically tracing possible vehicles. Every day, Tasha arrived at the station, met the press, and carried Amira's teddy bear, but she knew hope was turning fragile. Then on the 8th day, a letter arrived in her mailbox. No return address, no stamp, just a handwritten sentence. "Your daughter is safe. Stop looking for her." The faint, handwritten letter shifted the entire investigation onto a stark new path. It wasn't a threat, no indication of ransom, just a single messy line in smudged ink. "Your daughter is safe. Stop looking." Investigators sent it to handwriting experts. Only Tasha's fingerprints were on the envelope. The ink bore faint epithelial cells too weak for DNA. But the paper itself offered a clue, a rare type of recycled stationery, typically used in nursing homes or psychological clinics. The ink was navy, blue gel common in high-end fountain pens. A handwriting specialist examined it, comparing against collected documents, and offered an unsettling assessment. The writer is likely female, aged 50, educated, trained in cursive. The slanted uniform letters were not those of a hurried fugitive. They were practiced deliberate. Tasha listened quietly. She couldn't tell whether the news comforted or frightened her. At the same time, police began examining a new suspect, Malik Johnson, a 23-year-old park maintenance technician employed through a city work program. His job included checking the park security cameras. His records show he filed a note on March 12th, stating center camera, down awaiting hard drive replacement. His initial statement claimed he never removed the hard drive, only noted the problem. However, log records revealed that Malik accessed the camera system at 7:38 a.m. on the day Amira disappeared. Confronted again, Malik fled. Nearly 2 hours later, he admitted, "I removed the hard drive, but it wasn't about the little girl. I needed money. Someone paid me." That someone he claimed was a white woman who claimed to be an insurance investigator. She offered $300 if he removed the hard drive, saying she'd return it later that same day. I thought it was an internal thing, someone filing a disability claim or something. When asked to describe her, Malik said, "Blonde hair, beige coat, light-colored eyes, maybe blue. She spoke with a northern accent, not from Georgia." That description again echoed Diane. The police realized this was no amateur. This anonymous woman had manipulated city systems to disable surveillance. She was organized. She had experience. When Tasha heard the update, she stared at a photo of the handwritten letter, overwhelmed. After a long pause, she asked quietly, "If she can reach into city departments, how am I supposed to believe my daughter was her first target?" The question lingered in Lieutenant Lasker's mind. She ordered a search of similar child disappearances in Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee over the last 5 years, particularly those involving anonymous women approaching children just before they vanished. 3 days later, investigators uncovered a chilling pattern. 2 years earlier, Ellie in Birmingham, Alabama, a 4-year-old boy named Elijah Harris, disappeared in nearly identical circumstances playing mother, briefly distracted by a work call. Blonde woman promises a few-minute lookout, then gone. No camera footage, no license plate. One eyewitness remembered a black SUV with a colored decal over the rear window. His case was closed after a year for lack of leads. Detectives brought in Elijah's mother, Kenya Harris. When she learned of the similarities to Amira's case, she sobbed, clutching the same fear that Tasha knew well. 2 mothers, 2 nearly identical tragedies, separated only by a few hundred miles in 2 years. At that moment, a thread became visible, a pattern, not coincidence. The blonde woman, Diane or whatever name she used, wasn't operating alone. She was part of something larger. Within the department, an unspoken theory began to form. Was this an intelligent trafficking operation? A manipulation-based abduction, not through force, but through emotional trust, contrived opportunity entitlement of trust, and then erasing all trace. Lieutenant Lasker called in the FBI. As Elijah's case reopened and 3 more similar cases surfaced the title, the park phantom began to appear in classified memos. FBI modeling revealed a pattern across these abductions, public parks, single mothers and parents, momentarily distracted by a personal or work-related reason. Media coverage sharpened, drawing public outrage. Skepticism arose, some dismissed it as conspiracy. But single mothers who had just turned their backs for a second felt bone-chilling fear. Tasha, still amid her nightmare, agreed to a secure interview with FBI agents. They showed her a photo lineup of previously convicted women, scam artists, child abductors, fake adopters. On the 8th image, her hand clenched. "That's her," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "There's a different name." The ID read Rebecca Lynn Kavanaugh. In 2014, in Oklahoma, Kavanaugh was convicted for identity fraud in an adoption case she posed as a parent to collect a 2-year-old, then disappeared with the child. She was found 8 months later at a religious shelter near the Mexico border. Kavanaugh had vanished. FBI sources confirmed Diane was one of Rebecca's aliases. A federal warrant was issued. Age-progressed photos circulated across southern police stations and Border Patrol. For Tasha, it was the first real confirmation that her nightmare wasn't a delusion. "I thought I was just stupid," she said. "But now I know. I was targeted." Online single parents began exposing similar experiences, strangers claiming to be educators, social workers, even classmates' mothers approaching children just to vanish days later. A pattern was emerging. Fear rippled outward. It was no longer just Tasha's story. Despite tracing flight and credit records sponsored by FBI, no evidence remained. No bank records, no phone logs, no healthcare visits. Kavanaugh had seemingly vanished off the grid after fleeing Oklahoma. The manhunt escalated. Officials now sought a highly skilled anonymous individual with multiple identities and possibly logistical support. A final lead emerged. A hoodie with bunny ears, found in an abandoned motel room in West Atlanta, just 4 miles from Glenwood Park. The rented room where the hoodie with bunny ears was found sat in a weathered, dilapidated building on the west side of Atlanta. Police tracked it down by tracing rental records linked to Rebecca Lynn Kavanaugh, connected through a fake ID card discarded at a thrift store a few blocks away. Inside the cramped, humid room bore signs of recent occupancy: a mattress with an indentation windows, sealed with black tape, and on a decaying wooden table lay an old photograph. It showed a curly-haired girl in a red dress, standing before a rainbow-covered wall. Her hair reminded Tasha of Amira. But forensic analysis confirmed it wasn't her. The photo from over a decade ago was undeveloped and of unknown origin. The hoodie itself yielded no usable DNA, but its condition sent a chilling signal. It was clean, freshly washed, and hung carefully as if preserved like a keepsake. In a corner closet, officers discovered a small box filled with magazine clippings, children smiling, playing, or being carried by their mothers. On several scraps, someone had circled images in red and scribbled notes like, "Need this look, lighter skin, ages 2 to 4. This discovery forced investigators to confront a horrifying possibility. Rebecca might not be randomly kidnapping children. She may be selecting them, choosing a specific type, and for purposes yet unknown. When Tasha was brought to view the hoodie, she said nothing. She gently touched the bunny ear, then withdrew. It was the exact outfit Amira wore that day. "It's hers," she whispered. That meant Rebecca, or someone in her network, had held Amira recently. She could still be alive. But where and why leave the hoodie as a deliberate trace? Then a folded scrap of paper was found, its single line of text more disturbing than any other. Amira knows how to stay silent. Perfect child. That line froze the investigators. It suggested a mindset far more twisted than simple abduction for profit. This might be psychological manipulation, or worse, the creation of a synthetic family. The FBI brought in criminal psychologist Dr. Valerie Yates from the Behavioral Analysis Unit. She provided a chilling insight. The note's voice romanticizes caregiving. She doesn't view herself as a kidnapper, but as a rescuer, placing the child in a deserved environment. Knows how to stay silent implies obedience is valued above all. This is very dangerous. Dr. Yates added that such self-dialogue often reflects delusional maternal identity disorder when a person believes a child is theirs regardless of reality. Meanwhile, analysis of security footage near the room revealed an unsettling clue. Footage from a gas station 2 blocks away captured a blonde woman in a gray bunny, hoodie, hat, and mask arriving 2 days before the hoodie was found. She stepped out of an olive green pickup truck, no front plate, then quickly disappeared toward the abandoned building. Enhancing the image, technicians noticed the mask wasn't a standard adult type. It was child-sized with a cartoon design likely purchased from a mother and baby store. This suggested she wasn't alone. She was likely with a child. Maybe she had taken the child out for errands or to test obedience. When Tasha heard of this, she showed anger for the first time. "If she took my daughter outside, then she's alive. But she's living in some twisted game. She's treating my daughter like a doll in her own warped world." After internal reports were released, a nurse at a small clinic in Noonan, Georgia, an hour from Atlanta, called the FBI while shaking. "A blonde woman came in with a little girl 3 days ago," she said. The woman said she was Maria Callahan and that the girl needed a skin check. But the girl didn't speak. No tears. It was like she had been trained to stay quiet. The nurse remembered the girl wore a light yellow sweater with a bunny design, her curls, and light brown skin standing out. Whenever the nurse tried to engage the child, the woman hurried ahead and held the girl's hand firmly. No valid registration was found in the clinic records, but surveillance did capture their departure, the same olive, green pickup rear plate obscured with black tape, matching the vehicle seen near the hideaway. FBI analysts mapped possible escape routes. They believed Rebecca or someone in her support network was deliberately avoiding urban centers, traveling through small towns with no traffic cameras moving constantly. A task force was dispatched southwest along the highway corridor toward Alabama. Agents questioned gas station attendants, compared witness descriptions, and looked for matches, but no confirmed sightings emerged. Simultaneously, psychological analysis shifted the theory Rebecca wasn't driven by money, but by a maternal fantasy. She wasn't strictly a kidnapper, she was building a curated alternate family. Dr. Yates had warned, this is not a conventional crime, it's a performance. And Amira is the lead role. In a confidential FBI briefing, agents concluded that Amira's disappearance was part of a pattern of deliberate psychologically motivated actions carried out by one individual or a small, obsessive group. An experienced field agent quietly added, "We're not just looking for a missing child, we're chasing the shadows in someone's delusion, and they believe that child is the final piece." On the 14th day after Amira's disappearance, an anonymous caller to the hotline turned the investigation upside down. The voice was male, deep, and mature, speaking quickly and with pauses sounding anxious or watched. "I can't give you my name, but I used to work at a daycare in Florida. There was a woman named Lynn Kavanaugh. No, that was a fake name. She worked there for months, then disappeared, but I remember her eyes. She once walked in with a little girl and said she was her newly adopted daughter." Nobody followed up. The center was understaffed back then. He provided the old address, a private daycare in Gainesville, Florida, closed 2 years ago. Records were sparse, but FBI confirmed that Rebecca Lynn Kavanaugh had been employed there under the alias L. Travers. Why she left isn't clear. But a former co-worker recalled Lynn was quiet, would draw children in her free time, and kept a thick journal. No one was allowed to see it. At the same time, a bombshell came from inside the Atlanta Police Department. A deputy chief, part of the case's early days, had been caught deleting a camera report from Precinct 9. That recording showed a black SUV parked outside Amira's daycare for 17 minutes, engine on 5 days before her disappearance. Officer Marcus Dell claimed, "I didn't intend to obstruct. I received a call from someone claiming to be higher up at the state level telling me not to stir things up. I thought it was an official order. No one has identified that higher up." The revelation shook trust in the system. Online, justice for Amira surged, not for awareness this time, but to demand transparency. What was hidden? Who is protecting Rebecca? Who else is involved? Tasha began doubting everything, even those who had shown support. She asked herself, who is truly helping me? Who is using my pain to hide something bigger? In her personal journal, she confided one line that haunts: "If this whole system is trying to blind me, then Amira never had a chance." Following the tip about Florida, the investigation re-examined Rebecca's past 10 years. Then a new shock arrived via medical records. In 2012, Rebecca had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder after a psychiatric hospitalization for self-harm. A 20-page psychological report included a note: "The patient displays partial dissociation from reality and frequently claims her biological child was stolen, and expresses a desire to recreate the ideal family the world owes her." FBI psychologists concluded that Rebecca didn't just want a child. She believed someone had taken hers, and she would reclaim motherhood by any means necessary. This explained her composed, methodical demeanor. It was part of a grander scheme she believed in. Tasha was shown this phrase. She stared at the words, "recreate her ideal family," and whispered, "She thinks she's my daughter's mother." That terrifying truth carried a cruel irony. If Rebecca truly believed Amira belonged to her, then perhaps her child hadn't been harmed. But that also meant she would never return Amira. She didn't view it as abduction, but as bringing her home. Meanwhile, in Noonan, a witness from a small motel called FBI, she said a blonde woman had checked in about a week earlier with a very quiet little girl and stayed 3 days. When asked if the girl was sick, the woman replied, "She's going through an adjustment period." Surveillance showed the truck had no plate and matched the olive green vehicle linked to the hideout. The room registration name was Melinda G. Ray tied to a burner phone untraceable. Clues piled up, but led nowhere solid. A network of false identities, intentional breadcrumbs, and no photo or voice recording of Amira since the park. Then, on the 15th night, Tasha got a call from an unknown number and answered with a pounding heart. Silence for 4 seconds. Then softly, a child's whisper, "Mom, I'm cold." The call ended after 12 seconds. Tasha collapsed to the floor, the phone slipping from her hand. She didn't scream or cry, only clutched her chest, as if holding her shattered heart together. The FBI traced the call to a public Wi-Fi terminal at a cafe 80 miles from Atlanta. But when agents arrived, all devices were wiped. Only one clue survived, a cache record showing a MAC address logged into an email account, Mama Sparrow 47H. Checking the account revealed purchases books on raising children with complex trauma and a 3T-sized bunny outfit, the exact size of Amira's clothes, shipped to a mail drop, no name attached. Tasha heard Mama Sparrow, her daughter, had once told her, "If I ever get lost, you're the sparrow mom, and I'm the baby bird." The phrase was etched in her memories. She whispered, "My girl, she picked our story." Now, investigators believe Rebecca had learned the intimate bond between mother and child and was trying to overwrite it. Perhaps Amira is undergoing conditioning separated from her past, given a new name told her biological mother abandoned her, and that Rebecca is the one who loves her truly. The FBI described the situation as psychological brainwashing akin to cult indoctrination or long-term abduction. It forces victims, especially young children, to accept a false reality to survive. Tasha was placed in a specialized support program for parents of long-term missing children. Yet each night she plays her phone's ringtone, waiting for another call, another voice, another hope. She posted, "If you're out there listening, I'm your sparrow, and I'm still flying." 3 weeks after Amira's disappearance, the trail had gone cold. No new calls, no surveillance, no unexpected witnesses. But one thing never went quiet. The community, in Atlanta, especially among the Black community, people began to march. Gone were the missing posters. Now they carried banners. "Where is Amira Black? Children deserve headlines. We will not be silent." Every evening, candlelight vigils were held at Glenwood Park, where the swing still moved in the breeze. Each night, someone would step forward to tell a story, a memory of their own child. They weren't just demanding Amira back. They were reclaiming their voices. Tasha stood at the center of the circle, her eyes hollow, but her voice steady. "Amira is my daughter, but she's also every child of every mother who's ever been ignored, ever not believed, ever called irresponsible because they were poor or brown or without a voice." National media returned, but this time they weren't just covering a missing girl. They were confronting the disparity between how society responds when the missing child is Black versus white. Questions began to surface. Why did it take multiple linked disappearances for the case to be taken seriously? Why was Terrence the homeless man who saw it all dismissed, even though he was right? And why did it take a phone call from Amira herself for people to believe Rebecca had been orchestrating this from the start? One journalist, a single Black mother, wrote an op-ed titled, "If Amira Were Emily, Would Things Be Different?" The article went viral. It sparked debate. Some called it emotional exploitation, but millions shared it because they saw themselves in Tasha and Kenya Harris, in every forgotten name left behind. Tasha still woke every morning at 6 a.m., made tea like she used to when getting Amira ready for daycare. She kept the routine not out of hope, but because it was the one thing that held her together. In Amira's room, everything remained untouched. Her red dress was cleaned and pressed. The star-shaped nightlight still glowed each night. And Mr. Wobble, the small teddy bear, lay on the bed waiting for arms to wrap around him again. On day 31, a small package arrived at the Atlanta police station. No return address, no postmark. Inside was a soft, pale, purple fabric bracelet stitched with a single line. Always 3:17 p.m. Love Mama S. The FBI ran tests, fabric analysis thread tracing embroidery style. Nothing conclusive, no DNA, no foreign markers. But the time on the bracelet, 3:17 p.m. was the exact time Tasha had once said she and Amira would head home from the park. Legally, the bracelet meant nothing. But emotionally, it sliced through Tasha's mind like a knife. Mama S. That was how Amira once signed a birthday card. "I love you, Mama Squirrel," because as a toddler, she used to mispronounce Sasha as Squirrel. Only Amira could have made that. Only Amira knew 3:17. Tasha collapsed onto the station floor, clutching the bracelet with trembling hands. It wasn't despair. It was confirmation her daughter was alive. And she remembered. The investigation continued, but no one knew where Rebecca was or what she ultimately wanted. Was she building a new family, replacing a memory, or just taking children? She believed she could love more than anyone else ever could. Tasha didn't need the answer anymore. She just needed one chance. One opening. In the final letter she sent to the FBI, she wrote, "If she thinks she's my child's mother, then she's made a mistake. A mother isn't just someone who feeds and tucks in a child. A mother is the one still standing, bleeding, broken, with nothing left but waiting for her child to come home. And her final line, "Amira, wherever you are, if you can hear this, hold on to your memories. Every day at 3:17 p.m., I'll be at the place you disappeared. This year, next year, I will always be the first to call your name." As the sun sets over Glenwood Park, the center swing keeps moving. No one's sitting on it. No one's pushing it. But the last light of day still falls across its faded plastic seat like a promise left unfinished. The case of Amira Monroe remains unsolved, but what it left behind stretches far beyond any investigation. The story of a child who vanished in broad daylight, a mother doubted by a society that always questions the wrong people, a community that once stayed silent now standing up, and a woman who may still be among us, not with a terrifying face, but with a twisted kindness, more dangerous than any threat. If you're a parent, a sister, a neighbor, what would you do if a child whispered, "I'm cold," and you had no idea where they were? And if you are Amira listening somehow, or someone like her, know this: someone is calling your name, and they will never stop.